Thank you. Thank you again, Mr. Secretary. We authorized ARPA-H at it was funded at $1.5 billion, and you're requesting flat funding for ARPA-H. For those who don't know what that is, it is intended to fund high-risk, high-reward research to find biomedical and health breakthroughs. It's fashioned after DARPA, which is done in the defense arena. And biomedical research has long enjoyed bipartisan support, of which mine is obviously part of that support. I have heard some concerns about either repetitive or deflecting or competitive, maybe, research that could be that is conducted at NIH as opposed to ARPA-H. So ARPA-H reports to you, and NIH is a separate entity. And I would like to know, can you tell me how you plan to make sure that the research activities of ARPA-H and NIH remain distinct? And I mean, I don't think they should be siloed because one can feed to the other, but to avoid that duplication.
Senator, so just to be sure we're clear, both NIH and ARPA-H report to me, but ARPA-H, which is very similar in its research mission, some said should have been housed within NIH. What we did was we kept it separate because it's supposed to be a much more nimble operation. The difference, basic research is done at NIH. It may take 10 to 15 years before we see some novel discovery come out of the NIH research. ARPA-H says in 2 years, no more than perhaps 3 years, you're on the ground with this novel approach. And so ARPA-H was, as you mentioned with DARPA, with the Department of Defense, to help us get those innovators who are having difficulty finding enough money because it's a small idea, actually get them off the ground. And so this is where that cutting-edge research will quickly get moving. And so ARPA-H has actually had some great successes. And as I mentioned to you in our conversation, I'd love to make sure that if you'd like, we let you know some of the projects that are underway at ARPA-H.
Yeah, so I understand your longest project so far is 9 months old. I mean, that's because this is a new program.
Correct.
You have the ability to withdraw funding at but I don't know how many projects you have going, 9 to 10 maybe going right now. You have the ability to withdraw funding if it looks like these things are, that's some of the hardest things to do, as we know.
Yes.
We serve together. Have you withdrawn any funding from any of your projects that are moving so far? Is it too early to tell?
We're only 9 months in, and so usually 2 to 3 years, but you're right. These program managers are hired with the understanding 2 or 3 years, and that's it.
And so do you have a firm and affirmative oversight plan to make sure that you're redirecting funds if somebody's got an idea that's not going to work, let's move on, and you have that oversight plan already in place? Yeah,
Dr. Wegerson, who, by the way, came from DARPA, Dr. Wegerson understands that completely. It's in the design of the proposals. Everyone understands this is not going to be something that's living for a decade. It's either you hit it, you have success, or we're moving on.
Okay. I want to ask you about your return to work process. COVID's over. It's been over for over a year now. The White House Chief of Staff, Jeff Zients, and I excuse him if I pronounced his name incorrectly, encouraged agencies through an order in May 11, 2023, to bring back in-person work policies. What is your in-person work requirement?
We are complying with the OMB guidance that was put out there.
Well, what is that? I don't know what that is.
It essentially says make sure that your work plans with all of your employees have a mix. So some are full-time, some are have some telework ability. And so it's having the mix, and what you're traditionally trying to do is have at least half of your workforce in at all times.
Okay, so approximately what percentage would you say is back in the office 5 days a week?
As I said, we're complying with the OMB guidance.
Oh, I mean, I know.
So that means we're essentially there, but we're 90,000. We have people throughout the country. We have a mix. Unlike other agencies, we have folks who are medical providers.
Have you negotiated any contracts or with the federal unions that say you have to be in 2 days every 2 weeks and a day is 6 hours?
Yeah, we've negotiated contracts with the unions to make sure that we're complying with the OMB guidance.
Well, I mean, are some of those like that? Because I know we're finding that in other agencies.
Yeah, for example, telework has been around for a long time, and so we may have made adjustments to the telework plans that we have, but what we have to do is because they're under an employee collective bargaining agreement, we have to
Okay,
discuss that
so
with the
can
union.
we have your collective bargaining agreements? I mean, I'm sure they're public, so we could see what you've negotiated in certain areas. Because quite honestly, 4 days a week, a 2-week period, 6 hours is a day, most of America would begin laughing at that.
Right, and that's not something that you have for the 90,000 people in the workforce. But let me see what I can do as far as providing you some of that information.
All right. And then well, I think my time's up, so I'll let these guys go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you.